The night was disturbingly quiet. Too quiet. In the small, seemingly peaceful town of Villisca, Iowa, a thick silence smothered the Moore family home. But by morning, that silence would be shattered. The peaceful little house would soon be known for a crime so brutal and baffling it would echo through history. The Moore family's 6 members, along with 2 young guests, were found brutally murdered, and to this day, no one knows who did it. The house remains one of the most haunted places in America, where the questions of the past refuse to be buried. June 9, 1912. The night started like any other. Josiah and Sarah Moore, along with their 4 children, were settling in for the night. It was a typical summer evening in Villisca, a small farming town nestled in rural Iowa. The air was warm and still, and the Moore family had just finished dinner before they climbed into their beds. But in the middle of the night, the unimaginable happened. 2 young girls, Ina and Lena Stillinger, had spent the night at the Moore house, visiting their friends. They had no idea that by morning they would join the Moore family as victims of an incomprehensible slaughter. An axe sharp, heavy, and cruel was wielded with deadly precision. And when the town awoke, the house was a macabre scene of carnage. The murderer was ruthless. The way the axe was swung suggested a methodical, almost ritualistic violence. Josiah, the father, was struck first, his skull crushed by the first blow. His wife Sarah wasn't far behind. The children, their young faces frozen in terror, were murdered one by one. And the 2 young girls, Ina and Lena, were just as helpless in the face of death. When the bodies were discovered the following morning, it was clear that the killer had been careful, ensuring there were no signs of forced entry. The house was locked, the windows shut, the doors bolted. It was as though the killer was someone the family knew. But there was no evidence left behind. No blood outside the house, no struggle, and most haunting of all, no screams. The town was plunged into a deep state of shock. Who could commit such a horrific crime in the dead of night without leaving a trace? The police investigation began, but there were no leads, no suspects, and no clear motive. What had caused the killer to pick this quiet, idyllic family as victims? And why was there no sign of a struggle? No one could understand how someone could quietly murder 8 people without alerting anyone. Rumors began to swirl almost immediately. Local townspeople, gripped by fear and curiosity, speculated about a possible local culprit. Was it someone who lived nearby? Someone with a vendetta against the Moore family? Or perhaps it was an outsider, someone passing through on the lonely country roads that led to Villisca. The Reverend George Kelly quickly became a prime suspect. A troubled man with a shady history, Kelly had been in Villisca just before the murders. He'd been spotted near the Moore house. But despite an intensive investigation, the police could find no concrete evidence linking him to the crime. He denied any involvement, and the case slowly faded into the cold, dark corners of forgotten history. But the people of Villisca could not forget. The town became a place of whispers and half-truths. The house, abandoned and decaying, became a symbol of grief and confusion. No one could explain why the Moore family had been slaughtered in such a horrific way. And though there were numerous theories, the case would remain unsolved for decades. Over the years, the house fell into disrepair. It stood as a haunting reminder of the tragedy that had taken place within its walls. And as time passed, something began to shift. The house, once just a place of death, became a site of interest for those fascinated by the supernatural. The first rumors of hauntings began not long after the murders. The few who dared to visit the house reported strange phenomena. People claimed to have heard the faint sound of children laughing, of doors creaking, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the attic. Some said they saw shadows moving through the house, figures that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. But no one could explain these experiences. Were they the result of an overactive imagination, or was something truly supernatural at play? In the early 1990s, the house was open to the public for ghost tours. The eerie reputation of the Villisca Axe Murder House had drawn the curious and the brave from all over. People who walked through the halls reported hearing soft whispers in the dark, voices that didn't belong to any living person. The atmosphere in the house was thick with unease. Many visitors claimed to feel an overwhelming sense of dread, as though they were being watched by unseen eyes. As the years passed, more and more stories came to light. The house was no longer just a place of history, it had become a destination for paranormal enthusiasts. a hotbed for those hoping to witness something otherworldly. But it wasn't just the reports of shadows and whispers that intrigued people. There were more disturbing accounts. One visitor claimed to have seen a figure standing at the foot of the bed where Josiah had been killed, axe in hand, its eyes cold and dead. In 2004, a group of ghost hunters captured something extraordinary. Using infrared cameras and EVP equipment, they recorded something chilling. A shadowy figure, resembling a man holding an axe, appeared on their footage. The ghost hunters were quick to point out that the figure didn't seem to be human. It was almost as though the entity had been trapped in the house, unable to leave. Some speculated that the spirit of the killer, or the manifestation of a dark force, was still lingering in the house, feeding off the terror it had caused. But this wasn't the most disturbing discovery. In 2014, a new wave of paranormal activity rocked the house. A team of seasoned ghost hunters claimed to have captured the voice of a child on their audio equipment. But this wasn't just any child's voice. The recording revealed a disturbing plea for help. Was it the voice of one of the more children still trapped in the house after all these years? Or was it something far darker, something that had never truly left the house? One of the investigators, a veteran of many paranormal encounters, reported seeing something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He claimed to have seen a figure in the corner of his a tall, shadowy figure holding an axe. But when he turned to face it, there was nothing there. The house had become a twisted reflection of its past, alive with echoes of violence, fear, and death. And that's when the twist came. The investigator, in a private interview after the event, spoke of something so horrifying it made even the most hardened paranormal enthusiasts recoil. He believed the house was not haunted by the Moore family. No, he believed that the killer had never truly left. The investigator suggested that the entity in the house was Intia Ghosted Alit, was something far older, far more malevolent. Something that had taken root in the house long before the Moore family arrived. Could the killer have been possessed by this dark force, driven to murder the family in a fit of rage? And now, that force remained in the house, continuing to manipulate the living to feed off their fear. So what really happened in that house in 1912? Was it the act of a deranged man, a product of local rage and hatred? Or was it the result of something far more sinister? Some believe the killings were part of a ritual, a dark sacrifice to something ancient and evil. Others think it was the work of an ordinary man who became a vessel for something evil. But one thing is certain. The Villisca Axe Murder House is no ordinary place. It is not just a site of murder, it is a place where the line between the living and the dead is dangerously thin, where something waits in the dark, watching, and where those who dare enter may never leave the same. So, next time you find yourself in Villisca, Iowa, remember, some doors should never be opened. Some questions are better left unanswered. And some houses, no matter how quiet, are far more dangerous than they appear.